There you go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Deep Dives in the Desert. We're very, very excited to
Excited.
introduce Nikkiana Jones. So, welcome. And you want to pull up her
Yes.
site? We'll just tell you a little something about
We're gonna
Nikki,
just
and this is her site.
she's gonna talk it all. Yeah. We're just gonna talk about you for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
1 second. Okay, there we go. So this is Nikki's YouTube channel, and here's some information. Go ahead, babe.
Yep. So she has the Living Extraordinary podcast, and she's a self-proclaimed truth seeker that challenges the current paradigms and really wants to invite everybody along on the road on her paradigm shifting. And she explores consciousness, ancient archaeology, the universe, astrology, dimensions, aliens, different realms and portals, and on and on. She is very, very
She's
diverse.
got the coolest stories.
She
And
does.
here is just some of her information, like if you want to follow her on social media and stuff. But we want to hear from Nikki. So Nikki, welcome to Deep Dives in the
Yes.
Desert.
You're welcome.
I love y'all's name, Deep Dives in the Desert. That's super cool.
Thank you. I am trying really hard to put this up, but please continue. Please
Hey,
continue.
Stephanie, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, for mainly, I mean, I have a bunch of crazy stories too, which you guys saw me or at the at least I did the Journey to Truth conference talking about my crazy stories. But a lot of times I just am like the Oprah of strange. I'm doing what you guys do. I interview people who have like some interesting thing about the world we live in to talk about, and I dive deep into it. Like those that are not boring, right? So
Yeah. What is the, as far as when you go, I was I forgot, I don't know the guy's name. I was listening to you on one of the shows that she did on, and
Like an interview?
Yeah, but he was talking about you going to like you go to certain digs.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone on some digs, but I've been to like I'm really interested in like crazy megalithic ancient kind of rocks and stones. Like that's my that's my biggest fascination within the paranormal or the abnormal realm or whatever. Just kind of the mainstream story they give us about like how these are built is just not true. So
Yeah.
and they're global. They have like globalized features about them. So that's also one of those like, what is up with that? And a lot of my interviews are focused on people who specialize in certain sites or all that. But yeah, I personally have been to like Peru, Egypt, Turkey, India, like all over South America and Central America, like Mexico. I look at even at the US, I'm really big into finding common features that are, in multiple places.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and for me, there was nothing like seeing it in person versus hearing about it or seeing a couple of photos. Because when you see it in person, it's a completely different ballgame. Plus, I think for me, I'm one of those people who I get, it's not every time and it's not every place, but I get a lot of like downloads or a bunch of information or a bunch of like crazy experiences when I touch the actual stones. So
one of my favorite stories that you have, I told you when we were in, I don't know if you remember when we were in Grafton, but you said, yeah, Tyler told me he wanted me to talk to you or talk about it and present in my presentation. So I was telling John, please tell us the story about the like gems and stuff in the mountains. Will you tell us about that? It's so cool.
So yeah, like I came in with some memories and I never really talked about it because like anytime I would, it was just like, my family or something would be like, all right, whatever, that's nonsense. But I remember making rocks, making mountains, and particularly when I would when you say like making it, what do you mean making it? Well, I have memory, and it's the same way you have memory of being in the 3rd grade or doing like it's like fuzzy past memories. It feels like the same quality of old memories. And I was light itself, and my color was a blue-green. And I I remember what it felt like to see 360, or well, I'm not even 360. You're seeing like above you, like everything that my light encompassed was in my vision path. And so I find just being able to look at one single point of focus cool. I'm like, whoa, this is so, I even still find that fascinating at 42. I'm always like, wow, it's just so interesting that we can just see like one thing at a time. You know, you can see things in your peripheral vision, but just there's one thing you're focusing on. And I'm like, wow, that's such a blessing, because I have a lot of memory of when it's not like that.
Right.
And anyway, when I was this turquoise light, the ground was different than it was now. And it had almost like a putty type consistency. And we would sometimes collaborate, actually a lot of times collaborate, and we would build up terrains and surfaces and these kinds of stuff. And we actually were building structures, like, and the mountains you see today they're broken. They're not 100% what it was when we were designing them. But when we would finish our structures or our big buildings, there were things like we would sign them, and I would ball up really, really quickly, and I would just boosh through it, and like I would leave a trail of turquoise, and that was my signature. And every single gemstone, you know, gems are different from rocks, and if it's a crystalline structure, that's a light being's signature from my perspective and memory. So, you know,
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, that's wild.
We
I
love
wonder
that.
what mine is.
Well, not if you weren't that type of
You
being.
never know, though. It could
Yeah,
be.
but there were thousands of us, or 100, I don't know how many. There's tons. So like different people had different colors and different signatures.
Yeah.
And like there were times where you would swirl with other people and you would create a signature that was like, that's maybe why you only find that stone in that one rare place or that one thing, you know. So yeah, sometimes you were mixing with and matching with other people in the signatures of the builds and things. So yeah, I don't know. I just know that mine is a turquoise.
Is that incredible? I love that story so much. There's Sherry. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, Sherry.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't know if you've ever heard any of my stuff, but I have so much in and around mountains as well. So for me, it's like a super good confirmation, and it's exciting just to kind of have that. But also, you go all over the place, you travel, and you've been to these incredible places that the rest of us kind of, you know, watch documentaries and stuff on, and you've had some pretty incredible experiences.
Can I just ask one thing before we get into that? And I apologize.
That's okay.
Interrupt. I just heard that Stonehenge, the stones were moved. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bunch of videos or images of them before they were put up. So, I mean, and it makes you kind of wonder how much they've been manipulated or not. But the people who say it's completely fake, I will say to that, Stonehenge is my very first ancient site that woke me up. I was 23. I wasn't woo. I wasn't into any of this stuff exactly at that time, even though I had like woo experiences as a child and stuff. And even as a teenager, I like that was my first big megalithic place I went to, and I could hear them. They make a noise. Like the actual stone itself has technology about it or in it. So I was going there, and I was with some other normie chick, and I was going like, what is going on? Like, are these on or something? What is happening here? And we happened to be there on the summer solstice, which is the only day of the year they allow you to go up and touch them. And it's sad because people have like chipped away and taken pieces of them over the centuries.
Yeah.
But anyway, when we went there, I could literally stick my head on a stone and hear it sounded like a running refrigerator or something. There was like a crackling electricity coming from the stone. And she was like, they're not making a noise. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Okay, all right. Well,
that happens to me sometimes at the beach when I put a seashell in my ear. I can hear the ocean.
He's going to be, I'm sorry. He thinks he's funny with everything. I can't with him. Are you going to behave today while we're doing that? Okay, good. Anyway. So
yeah, I don't know what they've manipulated. That's why I'm always kind of like, they'll be like, oh, it's an eclipse predictor. It's this astral. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But at the same time, I just know they were magical of some regard, and they do currently have some activated living stones. That's the other thing. I think there is, living stones and dead stones. I've noticed that like lichen and moss grow very heavy on the living stones. And
Oh,
then, yeah, and when it's disconnected from its wall or its structure, or it's removed and from the land it was at, and it's put some in another building or whatever, you'll notice all that dies. So I
that is
think,
interesting.
Well,
Yeah, you know what? It makes sense though, because there are some times that you can just like walk up to structures or by structures and you can kind of feel, are you okay? You got it?
there we go.
No, no, it's never boring with him, I'll tell you that. But anyway, so that makes sense. And you went to some of the structures, like you were talking like the megalith kind of places. What would you say was like the place that you got the most like downloads from in that type of environment? Where did you feel like, okay, something
um,
seriously?
like really early on before I did Peru, Peru's just like, okay, well, the real answer is Sacsayhuaman, Peru. But even before I did that, I went to Mahabalipuram in India, which has got these. I mean, they're to this day, they're still the biggest megalithic. It's almost like the bedrock that is they carved it in on all this stuff out of it, and it's got all the features that I'm looking for. But I had no idea what I was looking for at that time, and I just happened to be there because I was going to the Sedhana forest, and I was on my way there, and I had to stay for 4 days because I was like, this is crazy. And what I love about India is they don't try to BS you and say like, oh, this was made by so and so and this date, and they're like, they're old. And I'm like, how old? And they're like, very old. I'm like, can you give me a estimation? No, just very old. And you're kind of like, at some point you have to appreciate that because you can't date stone.
Right.
It's yeah, you know, it's like it doesn't have like the carbon C14, which is also flawed, and we could talk about that later. But it is one of those things where I mean, it's been in existence since the planet, right? So how do you know when it was manipulated? We don't have a way of doing that to a degree of accuracy. So a lot of stuff is just hearsay. So okay, but then I went to Sacsayhuaman, Peru. I think this is actually in Machu Picchu. But and I had gone to Machu Picchu, and I was like the whole time I'm like going around going like, whoa, like these are crazy, right? And I my mind was being blown, even though I was in a yoga trip and I wasn't on an ancient history trip, or I wasn't on like anything about these things particularly, only that, let's do downward dog next to the Machu, whatever. So I went to on our off day on our tour, I went to Cuzco, and we did I went to Sacsayhuaman with one other lady, and it was raining. They don't have any at this point it's like a total tourist attraction. You have to pay like $30 to get in, and it's this whole thing. At that point there was no gates, there was nothing. This was in 2017. And I walk up to the stones, and they're huge. They're like the biggest stones in the world. They're so huge. And I could hear they were making the same sound that Stonehenge was making. And I started crying like a 2-year-old baby. I was like,
Wow.
we're being lied to about everything.
All of
Like, yeah, we're being lied to. This is a horror. I mean, I just really was thinking like, why would they tell, like, the Incas were only a civilization for 70 years, and they didn't even have the cart and wheel supposedly. And you're telling me they built these stones with llamas? Like,
Yeah.
the what? What are you talking about? Like how did they move these? How did they cut these? How did they move? And it's just like even the Peruvians will, all the Peruvian guys will be like, we don't know. Cool though, huh? Look, yeah. Yeah, they were very sophisticated, I guess. So anyway, that really is what started my like, what is going on? Da, 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 da. And then of course, I found Graham Hancock and all those kinds of people from that. But I never have been 100% on anybody's camp with any of their theories. I've always like Graham Hancock's obsessed with Young Dryas period
Yeah.
and all that. And I mean, like I'm more I'm not convinced of that any more than I am of anything else they tell us, right? Like oh, that there's a comet impact and all this stuff. I don't know. Who knows about all that? Like for me, I'm more I think we could be dealing with time travel. We could be dealing with a globalized civilization before. Like we could be dealing with other aliens, sure, fine. But like what it is like I think we were more Lord of the Rings than we were Star Wars, but I think we really were like there were different ages and races of man, and I think these are their signatures. And
Interesting.
they think differently than we think because
Yeah.
polygonal walls are even like just stuff like this. This is a nub. This is like one of the biggest nubs in the world. A nub are these little nobbins that like stick up off of these walls and these blocks and stuff. And the conventional archaeologists will say, "Oh, these are for lifting." Okay, well, if they were for lifting, if they were sophisticated enough to build something that this probably weighs more than any of your cars or like a plane, or it's just solid granite. They would have maybe sophisticated enough to saw it off or rub it off or make it I mean, they have a lot of these crazy features that no one ever addresses. And when they do address it, they're like, oh, it was a functional thing for building. And I'm like, yeah, well, now that you have the pyramid of like the third pyramid, what's it, Mankuru or whatever, of the three great pyramids, like the littlest one has nubs on it on the outside of the casing stones. And we'll be like, oh, well, they were for lifting blocks. And you're like, oh, you think after they built one of the great pyramids, they didn't think to maybe just saw that off? No, it had a function. It had a weird thing. They're all over the planet. They're really weird. And there's a lot of weird features like that. So, yeah, I think, and like seriously, somebody just wrote like, oh yeah, like Tartaria or Atlantis. I mean, I don't even know if they call themselves the things that like we're calling them. I don't know, but yes, I do think that there were different ages of men who had different ways of thinking. We could even have had dinosaurs that were actually dragons that were just as smart as man that built this kind of crap for that. That's something a dinosaur would like, not a human. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
I wonder if that technology, are you kind of saying that like the nub on this and say the nubs on the small pyramid, is that technology that can talk to each other?
I don't know. I am saying it's the same technology. Like you find this technology of like nubs. And I'll do a detailed video about that soon because a lot of people ask me about it. It's scattered a lot in my interviews and a lot of the people I talk to in ancient. It's one of the main features a lot of people talk about, but it's these like small weird protrusions that are on the granite or the bedrock or the whatever limestone, whatever they're building with. They can be square, round, big, small. There's a couple of triangle ones, but they make no sense. They're placed randomly all over blocks. And yeah, like mainstream archaeology just ignores them and fails to talk about that they're found globally. They're found in Easter Island. They're found in India. They're found in Egypt. They're found in Peru. They're found like, I mean, like everywhere. There's even some in Montana near the Sage Wall. Like it's like a big elephant in the room that needs to be talked about. Like, but even not that polygonal. Polygonal is when like the blocks are in those weird configurations that aren't square or block. And if you look at Saxe Woman, it's probably the biggest polygonal walls that we have. And you have to like think and place and know exactly how every block is going to go. And it's not just like how we set bricks, like, I mean, this is like a giant puzzle piece before it was ever built. We don't think that way. Right. And they thought that way all over the world.
Wow.
At a different time. So that's why I'm saying it's a different, whoever built some of this stuff had a different architectural language than we do. But I also think they had a different like way of doing math or patterning, or they thought differently than we think. So I'm not 100% sure that's 100% human.
That was probably, I bet you, probably the most advanced prevailing like technology maybe on the globe.
Well,
so
at least that
used it.
Yeah, that made it through, right? It's kind of interesting to think about. I'm with you as far as, yes, ETs and all of that too, I'm sure, to an extent. I'm sure that was the case, but I'm also, interested in going back to our friend Katie, from Katie in the Chorus, some of her information and stuff that she talks about as well. I mean, we're talking about several iterations of people, epochs of beings or consciousnesses that are living in different states that have been, here before. So it's interesting to kind of think about what could have been place and what's left that we're looking at. Are we looking at from one type of people? Are we looking at several? Are we finding, the remnants from several different epochs? I mean, it's possible.
It is. I mean, and I think there, I will say, someone also said star forts are really interesting. Yes, by the way, Saxay Woman is technically a star fort if you look at it from the aerial view, but that's a whole other rabbit hole of crazy weird, which is star forts. Yeah, those belong in the need to examine bucket of what is going on. Okay, so yeah, about how Katie talks about how there's other, yeah, she does talk about how there are I think I can't remember that her first book, if it was saying that we're in the 5th age of man or something like that. Yeah. And a lot, I've had this other shaman guy talk to me about how like the first 2 ages, and even in theosophy, they talk about how the first 2 ages of man were etheric, were more like ghosts like, or they weren't as material as we are. And then you had like Lumerians and Atlanteans and then us kind of thing. But I think what we are dealing with is, definitely different time scales. But what I want to know is why, like, what happened that destroyed these? Like, they've been blown up to bits. They look vitrified, which is where they've been turned to glass. I mean, it doesn't just look like wear and tear from erosion. A lot of times there's like explosion looking type. Actually, most of the time there is, like, most of the sites that I go to have had, I would call it deliberate destruction, and so it feels like we're in a video game and they're like, all right, they're out of the game. Now we're going to play a completely new game of Sims and we're just going to tear everything down. And it's a very bizarre way that these plasma storms. Yeah. I mean, it could have been an ancient world war I've thought about, or like how they talk about in the Brahmanas and, the ancient texts of India and stuff, how they say that they had like a giant war to end all wars. This is something that's new, but I'm kind of more on that.
And glass in the desert there, right? Like there's actual glass that's there. I mean, the heat that would have to be to turn that into that. And they talk about stories that, where they were talking about like these carpets and things that were in the sky and raining down fire and all of that. And I mean, it sounds like a galactic war. It sounds like something was going on anyway.
Yeah, it really does. And there is, I mean, that's tektites is an interesting thing that I am really interested in. So tektites is like the desert glass, not just desert, but I mean, like there is Liberian glass, which is all over. Like, so tektites apparently cover 10% of the planet, and they are supposedly the geology story of their origin is a meteorite comes down, it hits the sand, and it sends it up into outer space. And as it's falling back down, turning to glass, it gets little tiny spheroids in it. And that's how you get tektites. And moldavite is a tektite. That's the most famous tektite. And you have all this stuff. But I like this guy named Bruce Fenton, who I've interviewed before on my channel, and I've read his book, but he talks about how, and he has some ways that he's channeled some crystal skulls or something. I don't really know, but something about how they could be destroyed crystalline ships at some point, but they don't make sense because there's no impact craters around where these are at. And the strewn fields are all over the ocean's floor. They're in weird places that they wouldn't make sense if they hit in the way that they're talking about. And I'm not so convinced by the meteor shower narrative that we've been giving all the time, because, we have Tunguska in Siberia, and then we have Chintanoble in 2013 in Russia. But these are air bursts. They don't actually come down and hit the same way. You have meteor crater in Arkansas, but there's very few giant meteor craters that exist currently. And even some of them, they'll be like, well, like we could have been an extinct volcano, or, like the Richat structure in the Eye of Africa. We don't really know what that is or how that. I mean, yeah, people postulate it's Atlantis. People postulate that it's like an ancient volcano, that it's a meteor strike, that it's all these things, but we don't really have a strong hold on even the geological features. By the way, I was a geology major for 3 years, and then I changed the last minute to art history. So like I went down the road hard with my rocks because I loved rocks, right? And I just came out of it going like, you guys are making shit up. I mean, they could be, just because like they don't, I don't know. Basically, you're telling me that every single stone on the planet used to be molten lava in the core of the iron core, middle of the earth, and then just depending on the rate at which it cooled and how long it's been out of the parent material, it's you can have anything from, you know, quartz crystal to basalt, or it doesn't make it like the whole story of how things form and how they don't take any account for how different they are if they're from the same parent thing. So I've gotten to a place with geology where I don't think half of it makes sense. Not only that, this is also something about rocks that bothers me, is that when you look at a lot of them, that especially if you look at them in microscopes, there are like, there'll be like so many different, like granite's not just granite. It's not one parent rock. It's like a perfect cookie dough mix of like feldspar and quartz and andesite and whatever other things that are in it. So they're all like these giant, perfect mixtures of stuff. And so you're kind of going like, how to riddle me how that happens with your cooling at different rates and magmas and all this stuff. So I think that could have been part of, you know, like when we were mixing lights, doing stuff with the putty or stuff, or it could also have been, maybe that was part of their old technology that they actually made. These are old concretes we're looking at instead of stones. Like, and maybe
that's
they
interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's interesting. And you know, do you think that some of the experiences that you had that were, you know, considered extraordinary, seeing that small being with your niece, I don't know if you thought it was a gnome or what you thought it was, seeing the unicorn, which we can talk about those things for everybody to hear these really cool stories. But do you think that that these things were things that you kind of came here with, or do you think that maybe going and visiting these sites and doing these things turned something on with you? How do you feel about that?
I don't think I'm genetically special or anything. I think that I have, the reason I have had a lot of interesting paranormal experiences is that I am open-minded, and people be like, well, don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out. But I'm like, no, actually the thing is that we really are more, everything that we think about in our reality is, you have to do a lot of unlearning, I think, because we are taught like, this is what is right, this is what is wrong, this is what can happen, this is what's possible, this is what's not. And when you just start to really let that go, and like, I'm talking like, let go if we can age, let go if we can fly, let go if we can, like, let go of everything. You don't know, let go of, you know, I mean, I think like, people are like, I hate flat earthers, or I hate like people who are into aliens, or I hate this. I don't know what's real or not real. I need to just be open enough to not make a judgment. I don't have to know I don't have to know everything. So that's how I kind of approach life. So I think when you approach it like that, like, you can actually experience magical stuff, because I don't tell myself I can't.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that it's a good reminder, because, you know, it's about allowance and allowing stuff. And that was a difficult part of this whole thing for me personally, because I liked the structure. I'm, you know, like a Capricorn and like, you know, a Virgo rising and stuff. So for me, it was like, I like things to be, so to kind of step away from it and just go, what if? Let me just see what else, you know. It was a process, but it's also very freeing. And you kind of start realizing, like you said, as soon as you have an allowance for yourself to think about things outside of, you know, the normal boxes and paradigms, you do start seeing things, you do start experiencing more than than you do when you're not able to do that. So really quick before we have, I want you to talk about whichever one you want to talk about. Those are both super, super cool stories. But I thank you, Corbin, right? She's so interesting. I couldn't wait for you guys to see her because she's so cool. But really quick before we go into that, I just want to share with you guys right now, I'm running a special. So let's see, where am I? So here is the website, and we have a 30-minute session, a 1-hour session, and then a 30-minute meditation consultation. So right now, I have to go off and back on. Sorry about that. Right now, I'm trying. Thanks. Right now, what I'm doing is if you buy a 1-hour session, you're going to receive a 30-minute session that you can gift. So you just go to thevisionsbeyondthedesert.com, and after purchasing and scheduling, you're going to get that reply, that confirmation email, and then you will go ahead and tell me the email person and the gift recipient, and I'll send them a calendar link so that they can have that. And that's going on now through June 30th. So I really wanted to do something that was like a promotion that felt special. It felt like you were actually getting something because, I wanted it to be good. So that's what I could think of. So I hope you guys will like that and take advantage.
And that's a good idea to give like a free 30-minute gift one. That's cool.
Yeah, because when we have books, which I'm going to share those too. But I thought, well, what if we could, like, if you want to do a promotion, we could like share our books. And then I thought, what if you bought it? You're not going to really feel like you're getting anything. So here's mine, Visions of Shadows and Stars.
The prettiest cover of it.
Thank you, honey. And that's just about my awakening. And then I'm going to show you Johnny's. And I know I keep clicking back and forth, guys, but I don't know how to do it where
she's just practicing.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'll show you Johnny's book really quick, which is here. Okay. So the frequency formula, and this has got the Grabavoy codes, and you included a lot.
Yeah, there's probably 600 plus codes in there from everything.
Oh, I actually think I've seen this. Are these the codes where like you write it on certain things and it'll be like, oh, this is the code for acne, and you put, or this is the code for stomach ache or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so for abundance, for even for
medical things, for meditation. So just whatever you wanted to bring in. We did like 5 different codes, and we found they were working. We were so excited. Yeah. So he was just like, I'm going to write a book. And it's if anybody that's read it, you guys know, he doesn't like add words and it's like this, and then he's got the code. So
that's what people want.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So we got that out of the way. Let me know if there's anything I can help you guys with booking a session. And I'm excited to talk to all of you. But so Nikki had some really extraordinary stories that are fun. They were just like really, really cool. And if you have a different one even that you didn't share, then I'd love to hear that too. But I think my favorite is the one with your niece.
Yeah, I'll tell that one. Yeah. Okay. So during COVID in 2020, we were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it used to be the biggest oak grove, right? And they cut it all down to make the buildings that is now what Dallas is. But there's a couple of parks that still have the original forest that would have been. So I took her to this little park, and it's 2020, it's COVID, you can't do much, right? And then so I leave my phone in the car, and things know when you leave. That's the other thing. They don't like to be photographed. They like it when you leave your phone. I hate that because you want to photograph it, but I'm sorry, but like most of my magical experiences, like there's a couple of things I have cool pictures of, but this one I don't, because sorry, I left it in the car. And so I'm walking with her, and nobody else was out. We were the only ones on this, and it has a big trail, and it goes a couple of miles, and we were probably like a mile and a half in, and I hear this rustling, and I'm thinking I'm going to see a squirrel. I look over, and there's like a little foot tall man, and he has like this stick with a broom, but it looks more like a fox's tail or some kind of cotton ball or something on the end of the stick. And he's wearing like earth colored tones, but he's got a little like gnome type hat. I don't know if he was an elf. He didn't have a beard. He just looked young, like a young little elf gnome boy thing. I don't know. And like, I don't know what all the races of all those things are. And he wasn't super fat or anything. He looked kind of, I mean, but he was just a foot tall. He's little. He's sitting there like he's sweeping. And I'm like, Virginia. And like we stop, we both pause and we're looking. And I was like, what do you know, she's, I think 7 or 8 at the time. And I'm like, what do you see? What do you see right there? And she goes, you mean the little man with the hat? And I was like, you see it too? Oh my gosh, you see it too. And I was like, and she goes, yeah, I see it. And I'm like, okay, well, like, and she's like moving to touch it. I'm like, no, don't touch it. Don't touch it. So we squat down and we're like, you know, like 6 feet from it or something. And we start talking. We're like, hello, hi, we're not going to hurt you. What's your name? You know, like we start like trying to talk to it and it cannot see us. We can see it, but it could not see us. And it would be sweeping and it would stop and it would like kind of
Is that cool?
listen to see if like what if like if it thought it was hearing something, but it didn't know what it was hearing and it didn't know where it was coming from. And so I don't know how long we stayed there, maybe 10, 15 minutes, but he was phasing in and out. He was like this, you know, like I don't know, this sometimes this thing where like that. He was going in and out of phase.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was cool. And then we told him that we would bring him chocolate and some, and because I'd heard that like elves like shiny things like coins and chocolate. And we were like, okay, we'll come back tomorrow and bring you some, you know, chocolate and some like coins or something. And we didn't come back the next day. We came back like 3 or 4 days later, which I have heard since later. I have heard from people that if you're not like really strict with your word, like we didn't come back the next day, so that was kind of like a, well, then we're not showing ourselves to you, we're done. That's, but honestly the thing is,
Yeah.
what was weird was that we could see him and he couldn't see us. So I now on reflection, like many years later, I think to myself like, oh, I don't. I think we may be living in multiple dimensions, and like sometimes we literally shift into like portals, thin areas, something to where we can actually see another dimension, another film, or another time space that's going on at the same time.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know dimensions, frequencies, vibrations, all this. They're all commingled words that what we're trying to say is something else might simultaneously be in existence, but I don't know how it works or not. But it may not just be like they're super special and you're all nothing. It may not be like that, actually.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That's incredible, especially the fact that it reminds you of like almost like the movie, like when in the Wizard of Oz, like darn, and you see the Auntie Em is looking around, right, and she can't see her.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, that's what it reminds me of when.
She said later on her niece, she asked her niece about her niece, was like,
yeah, my niece is like 13 now. I'm like, hey, yeah, remember the note? She's like, Nikki, don't talk about that.
Oh.
Like now it's not cool for her.
Cool,
now she won't admit it. It's like not cool.
She got confirmation if they actually want to get you know, tossed.
What?
You know, the little what do you call them? The midgets? What do you call them?
Babe.
No,
the munchkins.
Yeah, like you can throw them into like you put Velcro on.
Okay, stop it. You know what he's talking about? He's talking about The Wolf of Wall Street, you guys, and he's so inappropriate. I'm sorry. That was in a movie. Babe.
Confirm if they like it.
No, we don't even want to talk about.
Oh, okay. You know, she has a video on Mount Charleston that there was that blue, the blue beam.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, I have a picture of that. And then we had an apparition up there in a cave when Katie Mabry and I went up there, and like we literally got video and we got pictures. We have it on a show on here because we were sitting, and Katie's like going like this, hello. And we're not the only ones that saw it. There was like 2 other people that saw it because we were at a
video. I was in shock. I didn't realize that was there. I was like,
that was crazy. Different people think it was like different things. She kind of thought it was like this like Mother Mary kind of thing. It was like illuminated white, and I'll send you the picture so you can see it. But and then but we have a video.
Got a picture. That's awesome.
Yeah, we got a video. We got a video and a picture of it. And she was whatever this was. Some people thought it looked like a Sasquatch or something that was like kind of like half in, half out, and like illuminated. But it was really cool.
The apparition was cool, and then the blue.
And you know what? After that, we lost almost an hour and a half of time
Yeah.
because we went up to the mountain after we did that, and we thought, like, I remember driving up there. I remember talking with her the whole time. We go up to do the singing bowls. We had this whole thing with the trees, which was incredible, like literally a conversation with the trees and the mountain. And we were I was told to lay down and look up because there was some kind of a being that was there. And so we were both laying down. We were like, is that it? And we kind of could see, maybe not. And it was like this wispiness to the sky, but it was huge. So I don't know. I was thinking we would see, I don't know, a being, but it was almost like, I don't know, in the sky. Well, anyway, we drove, we thought maybe we were up there a total of 40 minutes or maybe an hour. But we were driving back down the mountain after we left there, I think 2 hours and 20 or 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by. And we were like, she's like, Lisa, look at the time. And I was just like, wow. And we knew the time because we just saw the apparition and we made a note about the time that the apparition showed up because they said it was showing up every day. So I was like, what? So we thought that her car's time glitched. So we both looked at our phones and it was all the same. And we were looking at each other like, how can that be? There's no way. So we were because it was an extra hour and a half on there.
Also, it wasn't that far, right? It was only a couple of miles,
right.
And all her gas was gone.
That's another thing. All the gas was gone, and we drove 7 miles. But I talked to Katie from Katie and the Chorus, and she thinks, especially with the gas being gone, she thinks it wasn't when we were up to the mountain. She thinks it's that drive that we were going up to the mountain. Something happened during that time, and that's what it was. But I don't know.
Yeah, that was
weird.
Incredible.
That is a weird one. I actually, and this is another interesting example of, I've had all these crazy experiences in a lot of places, but I've been to Shasta twice and I've never had anything. It's beautiful. I've had a great time. I want to keep going back, but I haven't had any crazy magical experiences there. And that everybody has magical experiences in Shasta, except for me.
Yeah, that's what you hear. We haven't been.
We've never been.
We don't travel a whole bunch yet, but this second half, I'm sorry, I have a little fuzzy or something in my mouth. This second half of our life, because now we're 54.
Yeah.
And I raised 5 kids. Gianna's not raised yet. She's in high school, but I just feel okay, now I want to start going places and seeing stuff. So Mount Shasta is definitely on the bucket list. And I have a few places. It's probably gonna have to be close to home at first, but I totally want to go.
Yeah. And you want to know, I always hated history, right? I know I always hated history. And the good thing about it is now that I'm getting interested in it, I don't have to unlearn all the bullshit they teach you in school.
Because you didn't learn it in the first place?
I didn't learn in the first place. So
there you go,
I have an open mind, and whatever kind of resonates with me, I'm going, well, that makes sense. I could check that out. And now I'm getting fascinated about stuff like that Teotihuacan or
Tiwanaku or there's Pumapunku or Tiwanaku.
You're talking about the pyramid in Mexico?
Yeah, it's the one where that the guy if you clap, it makes the sound of it sounds like a pterodactyl or whatever it sounds like.
Yeah, that's in Mexico City. Yeah.
Yeah, but also I thought it was interesting that way back, and this goes back way, I don't know the time frames. I'm like those Indian guys you're talking about, just real old, right? But it seems like it's real old, and then the guy who was leading them runs about 300 feet away, and he whispers, "Can you hear me?" And they heard him perfectly, and they said that it was acoustically designed for someone to speak like I'm speaking now, but to 250,000 people, and they could all hear perfectly like that. So when what's interesting to me is back then we always think of it being as primitive as we go back, right? But how they even know to make something acoustical to talk with 250,000 people? Who's getting who gets that many people besides Trump?
I always think about the fact that it's electricity. It's it's our main thing we work on, right? And it was discovered. It's not like it was invented. It was discovered in a couple hundred years ago. Okay, cool. There could be other forms of electricity or other forms of physics to our world that we have lost the knowledge of and haven't rediscovered yet. Somehow they're moving these things with in ways that we don't
see or something. Yeah.
That's the biggest mystery, how they move these stones that are 70 something tons.
Yeah, you have, Baalbek in Lebanon or the Shanghai quarries in China are I mean, they don't even know how to tell you how big they are, but I mean, they're Baalbek, like the stone of the pregnant woman is supposedly the biggest like quarried block and it's never been moved. It's still right next to the Temple of Jupiter in Lebanon. And it is like you would need 23 cranes, our biggest cranes right now, to move it. But so maybe we could lift it. How would you then drive with it somewhere, move it? Like we don't have a vehicle you could put it on that could transport that kind of weight.
Right. Yeah. But also when they set it with precision, like the lines are lined up perfect. They said we don't have
Yeah, Stephanie says maybe giants, I mean, maybe there were some civilizations that had the ability to do that, and some of the things, buildings and stuff that are around, maybe walls and things, I don't know, possibly. But I'm feeling like there's a lot to do with creating it as they're going with the laser precision and things like that. It really feels more like a frequency-based thing to me. I mean, I don't know. You don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I'm not opposed to giants in a lot of ways because, like, if you look at the fossil record, we have ginkgo leaves the size of an SUV. So why not have like humans be giant and huge? And I've had some people on, like I've had like Hugh Newman and Jim Vieira on to talk about giants, and I've had a couple of, and I even have a giant series with UFO on the Level. We did a thing on some giants there, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, or a lot of people who find, like the Sardinia Islands apparently had 12 to 24 foot giants, and that the people from the British Museum came and destroyed them all. Or what's weird is that I tried to go there in 2020, but of course I couldn't because, I tried to go to Malta and then Sardinia, and I was on this like forum and trying to talk to some locals to like ask them about like the giant stuff. And they don't allow English speakers to see the giant bones. Like you could only see the giant bones if you like speak like, I don't know, I guess, what do they speak? Italian?
Yeah.
I was just like, why? And they were like, oh, well, because anytime in the past, like we've just been told you don't allow English speakers because they tell everybody, they ruin it, and then they get taken from us. So,
Yeah.
So that's one weird thing that's kind of weird. And then, I've also had Heather Arnold on who's really big into the Aruba giants. And the Solomon Islands apparently had some giants and stuff. I mean, I don't know why giants wouldn't exist. Like they're talked about in many different civilizations and cultures and texts. And they, there's spotty, even the mounds that we've gone to, they find 7 to 8 foot, skeletons all the time that are recorded. So
yeah, wasn't back when, during like with the dinosaur period, maybe a little before. See, that's how bad I am in history. I can't even tell you what the name of the periods are.
I'm scared. I don't even know what
because they were saying the oxygen levels were so high. Like
that's what she wrote.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was talking about though. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the mosquitoes were huge, right? And everything was big. Yeah. So
could have been, the atmosphere could have been different. The gravity could have been different. Right now it's like it's not, because oxygen doesn't account for the fact that like a blue whale would collapse on its own structure and die when it's out of the water, even if it can breathe, just because of our gravity doesn't support that structure. And the same thing they say would be structurally of a Bronchiosaurus, like with the big long neck and that giant tail, it wouldn't actually be able to gravitationally lift that head up. So the weight to ratio of our current physics wouldn't work for a lot of the dinosaurs. Same thing with pterodactyls. They don't think they would have been able to fly. If our biggest flying bird right now is like some sort of Alcatraz thing or something, like we don't the ratio to stuff, like our actual atmosphere was probably different, and the gravitational pull might have been different.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. Just on a real basic level with physics, because they said the bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly with the mass of the body and the little wings. But thank God no one told the bumblebee that they couldn't do that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too when she was talking about that. It's interesting to kind of think about. And so where are you thinking of, like, you want to go next? Like, where is it that is the next place that I
My
know you've
next
gone to so
big
many.
is Japan. There's megaliths in Japan that are there's one called it's called Shiprock. No, not Rock Ship. And it was just some weird boulder. It's kind of very similar to these that don't really make sense with weird cutouts and these big things in Japan. And they have some star forts I want to check out in Okinawa. And then I also want to do some, like, I don't know. I'm not I'm not I'm not 100% intuitively. I think there's something more to the nuclear bomb story than we're being told. Because, like, there's just a couple of like, when I was talking about the tektites, or when I've been talking about, like, all the little spheroids and stuff you find, um, and then I, like, start I get weird little fascination things, but I was really interested lately in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and looking into the bombs, and there's, a lot of talk of, like, people's shadows would be left on walls, and,
Mhm.
and if you see how big the thing, there's no crater impact on either Sabat. It's like an airburst again, which is kind of bizarre. And I don't know why, but I think I want to go to get some more downloads, because this one psychic lady, Anne, who lives in Japan, who I'll see when I go there. I've had her on my show twice. She's great too. She said that she sees them they're light harvesting machines or weaponry. They take people's, like, light and their soul. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. But something doesn't add up about the whole nuclear weapons to me, and how we use them almost in these, like, proxy, like, what, I don't know, something I don't have this figured out yet or anything. I
Yeah.
just, like, that's like an example of, I get an impulse like that where I'm like, yeah, I actually need to go to base zero. Like, I went to the Trinity site in New Mexico where they dropped the first bomb, and I got crazy downloads there. That's where I started. Right by the Trinity site where they dropped the first atomic bomb is, like, near White Sands, New Mexico. There's the Three Rivers petroglyph sites, and that's, like, I started getting all these, like, crazy downloads walking around there about kind of these free energy machines, and they were, like, showing that in some of the petroglyphs, and I was able to see how it's, like, schematics of machines and stuff. So when I go to certain sites, sometimes, I'm not guaranteed, but sometimes I get like, ooh, I got a cool
Yeah.
idea.
Well, you know what? I mean, when they go back and you look through, like, the history, they were saying that MacArthur, General MacArthur, what's her name? Is that what's her Laura? Laura's last name.
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower.
Yeah.
They were saying that they wrote back, and they were saying that they're talking about their surrender. So don't drop the bomb. And then they got something back saying, they want to break the Japanese people. And so that's supposedly why they dropped the bomb. But, I would like to think that when they got that message that they're going to do their surrender, they didn't drop those type of bombs. And maybe there was some, like, another type of weapon that did like light sucking. I don't think that, I mean, I guess that's not any better, but I'm just saying maybe they did something like that, and they didn't drop the bomb militarily. They did something else.
Well, it's weird that people live in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They live there completely. There's, like, there's millions of people in both those cities now. And they rebuilt them right afterwards. And yeah, they had some defects and stuff, but yet Chernobyl, what's the one in Russia with the
Chernobyl. Yeah.
Chernobyl, people still can't live in.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's some debate on that kind of thing, but it's very
Well, the water's still tainted in Chernobyl, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because they talk about that, like, testing it and stuff, and it was still, like, dangerous levels. So
like three-legged frogs and stuff coming out. I mean, yeah, it's so I mean, I just feel like I don't know, but a lot, things don't add up for me. Like, I have to go research them more. I don't think we've been to the moon, because it's 54 years later. I mean, the last time they went was in 1972. So, I mean, we could go into the secret space program and all that stuff. I don't know one way or the other, but what I am saying is like what they're publicly telling us, it's weird that we haven't publicly gone back to the moon since 1972. So then that's
Yeah.
when you have to start going like, huh, okay,
Mhm.
well, they haven't put a nuke out again since the World War II. So that's great, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like it makes you wonder if there's something else going on than we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mm.
agree with you. It'll be interesting to kind of see what you get when you come back. Did you find like the same kind of like when Katie was getting her information in and around Chaco Canyon, did you feel like you were getting downloads and stuff during that? That was Chaco Canyon you guys were at,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's actually the first time I ever met Katie was in we went on a Chaco Canyon trip like 2 years ago, I think. Um, and no, I'm not a channel like her, and like I don't get I just have I just have weird experiences and I get weird downloads every once in a while, and they'll just come in as complete pictures of something, of how something worked or whatever. When I didn't get any downloads with when I was with her, but I have gotten down. I mean, maybe I did in some ways. Also, things start developing as even if I visited a place, the realizations like take a minute to what do you call it? Where you like uh activate or to completely and integrate. Like it takes me a while to integrate, like when I get back from a place, like what I really experienced. Like I had the Northern Lights go through me, like I was saying, and it took me 2 years to really figure out the entire message. Cause like, they're speaking to me, but I see things in a full picture, but it's not English. So it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
a minute to kind of understand like what's this about.
No, I like the way you deliver your message only because you can get downloads and you can talk from that side of it, but also it seems like there's common sense and reason
Mhm.
and behind it. Like so, it has to like make sense, and if it doesn't make sense, you want to find out what it is because this gap in here makes all the difference if it's actually true or not true or something's
Mhm.
up. So because that's the one thing sometimes that can hold hold people back when they look at it. But so it's like refreshing to hear
Yeah.
someone in the
Just
community
taking the
like,
pause and
yeah,
just kind of going, I'm not really sure, but you know
yeah,
what? Maybe, I don't know.
And a lot of times for me, I'll be like, okay, tektites, interesting, don't make sense. These are the reasons that don't make sense. This is in that side bucket. This, like the weapons, these are all things. And I slowly put them in my side bucket of stuff. And then every once in a while, I'll see like, okay, there's some kind of tie that's tying these things together and what's going on here. And and like I ask for clarity a lot and stuff, but I don't have disembodied entities or anything that tells
mhm,
me information per se. It's more like I just um I need like silence, clearing and unlearning and just to look at something from first principles. Like I have these bits of information, what's going on. And then yeah, here we go. But I mean, I I I, everybody goes through their own journeys of how they get information, you know.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I was
No,
just laughing at
yeah,
Laura's
right,
message.
yeah.
Laura said her dog rolled in something.
He
Go
said,
take care of that. That's good.
"Go, Sparky."
Yeah. But
But
no,
nice chat. I like
Yeah,
appreciate your chat, people.
you know what most people what they do they're good enough with just they'll take a narrative depending on if it's their team or not
yeah.
and they'll just ride or die with it and just go all in and as long as it's their echo chamber it's like they don't ask one more because sometimes you ask one more question and it's like you can't there's like nothing you know what I mean so it's
Yeah.
like it's good
Well,
that you do that with the side buckets because you can always come back and you can always connect
Yeah.
that's good.
that's why I always think it is something I always have to kind of like like when was this? Like 2011 or 2012, I started hearing like almost in my head like a voice. I heard you're a star seed, you're a star seed. And I was like, what the fuck is this star? It's like the stupidest thing ever. Like, and then like I would Google it and it would be like, plant your seeds at night to make nightshade vegetables in the stars. And I'm like, okay. So like there was nothing about that on the internet.
Oh,
And
that's
then when it
funny.
all started coming out, I mean, people will be like, "Oh, you're a Palladian and you're a star and you're Arcturian and you're this." I'm like, I actually have some memories of and I have had experiences with different beings. Like I definitely have a lion being experience that I have a lot, but the lion being doesn't call itself a lyran. It doesn't even speak English. It like makes this weird purring noise. And I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a lyran. Like that's just because that's a projected thing that someone else has told me.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
sometimes think of like, unless something has like you really have an actual message where you're like, okay, yes, I was with an Arcturian that said Arcturian that had this thing. Okay, fine. That's one thing. But I mean, a lot of times I think we're almost like building on other people's stories.
I
Yeah.
agree with you with that. I think that
Yeah.
that's really really accurate. And I think it's good to, to have the awareness that, there's stuff going on for sure. I've experienced things, I've seen things. I know there's more to it going on. What exactly that is and what exactly it looks like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just know it's something and it's
And we
different than what
as
we were
humans,
told.
we like kind of like you were saying with the Capricorn thing, it's like, you like your structure. So we're kind of like, so as a tendency in this kind of whatever community you want to call us in or whatever, like I've noticed we want to be like, okay, well, we belong to this kind of strand of weird. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You can't be like, okay, well, I want to be comforted in these are the kind of aliens there are. This is what's happening. This is the Galactic Council. This is the screw galactic councils, all this stuff. I don't know any of, I mean, whatever, they may be nice. I'm just saying like
Right.
of that, like you can't then try to make structure in the unstructured and
Mhm.
and try to then put it in your own framework. And that's what everybody's trying to do. They're trying to like put it back into categories that they want.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
make it fit. I agree with you.
Yeah, trying to put a triangle in a circle.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the way you think, and I love the way that you explain it. Before we go, I just was hoping that maybe we could still hear the unicorn story because it's so cool, and not everyone has a unicorn story. So
Okay, so the short version of the unicorn story, because it's actually pretty long. Basically, I met this shaman guy in October of, or I guess September of 2019. And then he gave me this spell at this like Native American council. And he was like an Amazonian dude and he did not speak English. And he was really adamant that I have this spell to open a portal. And I was like, I don't need a spell. Who needs a spell? Whatever.
Mhm.
So, but I remembered the spell because he kept on saying it to me. So then I find myself the next month in October of 2019, I go to Egypt for my first and only time I've been. And I was there for 2 weeks on this tour. And at the end of the tour, we got to go into the Great Pyramid. And like our tour only had like 18 to 20 people on it. I don't really know how many people were there, but I found myself alone in the King's Chamber. Like no one else was in the room with me. I was by myself. There was no guards. There was nothing. So I jumped into the box that they call a sarcophagus, but they never had a body in it. So it's just a box. And you're not supposed to really do that, but people do it. So I did it. I jumped into the box and then I'm sitting there and I don't know how long I have. I don't know if I have 1 minute, 10 minutes. I don't know how long I'm going to get because I didn't expect to have this to begin with. And so I'm like, I'm not going to meditate because I don't want to close my eyes because I'm only going to be here. Like, who knows? So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to think, what should I do in the box in the King's Chamber? And I was like, this is cool. What should I do? Right. And then so my brain goes, do the spell that Sarata gave you. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do that spell. So I start saying the spell. And I'm laying down saying the spell. I don't think it's going to work. I don't believe in spells. I don't know anything about any of this. Like, I didn't have any, like, I was just like, whatever. And in retrospect, it is stupid to open portals. I didn't talk about that because I didn't actually think it would work, but it worked. And this apparition started popping from the sky and it looked like this Egyptian man and he's like coming out of the granite, like popping like a relief sculpture out of the granite on top of the thing. And I start freaking out. And I'm like, no, go away. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't want you. I don't want like, some ancient crazy pharaoh or something. I don't know. And so then finally I hear some people coming in. You can't just go into a door and you're in the King's Chamber. There's like a little tunnel you have to crawl into to get to. So I could hear people coming in and I was like, go away. Like stop. But I was like trying to like say it backwards or whatever I could. They walk in and it just whoosh, like turns to smoke. And then they're like, oh, look at you. You got the King's Chamber to yourself. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. So then I was like, what was that? And then I was like, well, I guess this guy is not completely crazy because, you know, he gave me that spell that worked. And he had this story about this Atlantis portal that was in Colombia. So my friend who was his translator, I called my friend up and I was like, hey, I want to go to Colombia to see this Sarata guy. And I want to go to the Atlantis portal. And this is February of 2020. So I go out to Colombia. I am in the Amazon forest with like my backpack on my head, like swimming with, and we're talking like no infrastructure for days. My phone has been dead for, 4 or 5 days. I mean, like your battery packs, your solar packs only last so long. There was no electricity. You're just going in the woods. Like there's no shower. If you want to get in the Amazon River, you can take a shower there. It was just really, really the rough it I've ever done. And I don't think I would do it again. But we did not, long and short, we did not get to the portal of Atlantis. I think there was too many people and there was not the right synergy was happening with that. Okay, so the legend, the guy that the cool story was that he had brought this Tibetan monk to come out there, and the guy went into this portal that actually exists in these mountains that we went to, and there's these community of outlying Atlanteans that apparently live there, and they've lived there since the war, and they're the same ones as that were alive when Atlantis was destroyed, and they're giants. They're like 12 feet tall and they're blue and they have UFOs and they have all this. There's a whole story about that. And I really want to see those. But what I did see on my last night when I was fed up with the jungle right before we left, I was walking on my way back to camp and there were 5 of us. I was in the back. So 4 boys in front of me. 2 of the guys just start taking off running. Later, they said they thought they saw a phantom, like a white ghost. And me and the other two boys in front of us were kind of like, why are they running? Like, I don't really know. We're just taking our sweet time. And I feel like a hit on my shoulder. And I look over and it goes, and I look over and there's a white horse with a horn just there. And the 3 of us stop and we're like, and he's like, did he just touch you? And I'm like, yeah. And then we're like, look, and finally Demetrius, he goes, okay, I'm just gonna say it, you guys. Does that horse have a horn? And then, I'm stunned because I'm looking at this, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it does have a horn. And then like my friend E goes, all right, guys, it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. Yeah. So we sit there and then we're debating with each other. We're like, okay, well, should we touch it? And I'm like, no, I don't think you can't. Remember in Harry Potter, you can't, in Legend, you can't touch them because then they're like, it's like bad luck or something. Like, I'm like, well, he touched me or he touched you. Like, what, or maybe you can touch. So then anyway, it's slowly walking off, just eating grass with its head down, eating grass, just walking. And the horn was not spirally like on TVs. It was just like a cow's horn, like straight like that. And it was, like this, I don't know, whatever, like a 6 to 9 inches off of its head. Like, it wasn't like a foot long thing, but it was definitely longer than its ears away on its.
Wow.
And people are like, what was it? It was a nice, big, healthy white horse. I don't know my horses very well, so I can't be like, oh, it was an Appaloosa. Like, I don't know what that is. But yeah, it was a really.
If you scrape the horn and you got the dust off it, that's what's supposed to be magical, right?
Oh, is that?
What is wrong with you? I
saw it in the movie. I get all my information from movies, so I'm very accurate.
That's the thing. There was the movies that I saw were like, don't touch it. They're doing it. Anyway, we just sat and watched. There's like I couldn't take a picture because my phone had been dead for like a week at this point. There was none of us had any kind of phone that was working for anything. So I get back to the base camp. I turn on my phone and it's like the world has exploded. And my siblings are like, you need to get back now. They're going to close Colombia and you're going to be stuck there for, because COVID was happening. And I had no idea it was happening because I was
like, holy shit, I got to get out of the jungle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had to hightail it back to Bogota. And I think I got back like beginning of March or something. But it was like I got back on like one of the last days that they allowed us to come back before you would be stuck there for a while. So, yeah, that was my unicorn story.
Wow.
Is that crazy, you
incredible.
guys? It's so amazing.
You have some experiences, Nikki. Wow.
She's incredible. And you guys, I don't know if you guys paid to see the Journey to Truth stuff online, but it's definitely worth watching the presentations. There were so many good ones, Nikkiana included. I'm going to show you again where you can find her. She's got her own YouTube channel. And you can watch her interviews and everything that she's got. Here's her social media. If you guys want to, you know, follow her there. But Nikki, thank you so much.
I'm most active on Twitter or X, I'd say. Yeah. I'm on Instagram as a lurker, but I don't really post that much.
Yeah, I love your stories. I could listen to you talking about all your stuff. And she's funny and so engaging.
The way she delivers it is great.
Yeah, it's really cool. You just subscribed. Cool.
Thank
you so much for Nikkiana for coming on with us, and thank you to everyone in the audience for being with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed talking to her.
Yeah, it was really great to meet you. I wish I would met you in person, but it's nice to meet you.
Maybe next year. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Take care.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you guys again soon.
Bye, everybody.